This week we took to another Reading Aloud project of the Siebert Medal, and it's based off, more informational stories and stories that have more factual evidence in them and kind of provide a more informative detail to students. And the story I chose was Sea Otter Heroes by Patricia Newman. This story basically details the adventure or the scientific nature of a man named Brett Hughes, who decides to look into the sudden prevalence of seagrass in a oceanside or lake stream next to the Californian Bay, or in the Californian Bay. There's been a sudden flourish of the seagrass, and he goes out to figure out why this has happened, and he takes his hypothesis, and the story kind of writes through that, and we see how it goes. So with the idea of the hypothesis, we already have a very nice kind of subtle point of a scientific, the scientific formula of, carrying out the experiment and then writing your final theory. But this starts with Brett Hughes and his ideology of trying to figure out why this grass is growing. The illustrations is based off the photography, as he's going through it, and kind of learning exactly what's causing this seagrass to come up and about. So really the entails of the story lead to Brent finding out about the ecosystem that exists in this Californian Bay, and how each piece of this puzzle plays a detrimental role in increasing and fixing the chain that leads to this flourishing grass. So the end result that they found out is that, the sea otters are eating a crab who's eating the sea hares, that's eating slugs, that's eating the algae that causes this grass to be smothered. So by eating the sea otters were recently introduced to this, this Californian Bay. And by introducing a predator to the crab that was in turn a predator to another creature that was a predator to the creature that's killing the algae, that's killing the seagrass, we've created a form where the seagrass has a much more flourishing goal, because their predator has been reduced by the introduction of a larger predator. So in terms, this kind of leads down the scientific route of creating a hypothesis, carrying out the experiment, and then finally getting to the theory and testing it, testing it and finding out that the reason that this has come about. So really the story is just a nice little scientific story. It has a lot of, little facts here and there about the ecosystem and how each of the creatures plays its own little role within the story itself. And it goes into detail more about, zoology and how every creature kind of has a place, and removing one of these chain links can cause a detrimental effect on the entire web, as you learn in biology and zoology. So it's just a nice little book with facts and introduction into the idea of the scientific, formula and the idea of ecosystems. So just a nice piece of literature that has a lot of facts and a lot of information, just to kind of get them, their foot in the door of that little piece by Brett Hughes had gone out and kind of pulled off that experiment. But it has some nice information and facts that leads to the scientific formula and seagrass and sea otters.